welcome to That's What We Think with Connie and Steve. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hi, Con. I'm doing
That,
all right. How are you
that
doing?
good. That kind of sounded like I was like presenting the news almost.
You're doing it more professionally now.
It did sound a little bit more.
Yeah. Yep. It's sneaking into
Welcome to
our.
That's What We Think with Connie and Steve.
That actually sounded very good.
I think we have to be more professional given today's topic.
Oh,
But before we get into today's topic, you were
right.
asking yesterday was a professional
PD day.
development day, PD
That's right.
day.
Yep.
So the girls were at home and, they slept in. They did what teenagers do.
I thought, you know what? I mean, right now, it's crazy up in Barrie area simply because of
Oh,
that storm. And I
yeah,
know
the
this
ice
is a
storm.
timely episode, so we had an ice storm. A huge storm hit a significant portion of the northeast. Is that where we are? Northwest? It's hard to determine
Yeah.
exactly where it is, but
Ontario is so big, it could be anywhere.
it is. It is. But it
It's
was a big
actually
storm.
southern,
Yeah,
considering
but
how
it's
north we go.
right. So we are still recovering from the damage. Oh, it's been horrific. But the schools have been shut down because they're still dealing with power outages. Our city has been hit by huge damage before. We had a big tornado
Mhm.
back in
Yep.
1984 and another tornado, and now the ice storm. And Jim was just mentioning that maybe it's because we're situated in a spot where the weather is always going to be weird and
Yeah.
crazy. So, in light of the professional development day that the girls had, also everybody here had their day off, and then they also have another day off. So I'm sure the kids are thrilled.
Oh, yeah.
Parents, not so much.
No, but especially when they're teenagers, they get to sleep in till like
Oh,
noon. Remember back in the day?
I don't remember actually staying at home.
You didn't stay at home even like in high school? You had to have.
Oh, in high
In high
school? Oh God,
school.
yeah. Oh my God, in high school, yeah. Of course, I totally stayed home as much as I could.
Exactly. My girls are in high school, so.
Yeah.
And today it's rivalry days. I think
What's
it's a
that?
hockey game between two of the schools.
Okay.
I think that's what it is. I don't know.
Is it a big deal?
Yeah, where there's no school. They're gone to do that, except Evelyn isn't at that. She decided she wasn't going to go because she had no desire to watch a hockey game. So she's home today and she's going to go have a massage.
Very nice. I was just thinking about her
Yes.
and thinking how proud I am of her recent success and how things are
Yes.
going to be changing for her in the new year. And I think it's amazing. And I'm still so very, very proud of her.
So are we.
You know, it feels like we're putting off the,
Having to talk about the
we're
upcoming election.
oh, well, that one, I mean, I'm okay with Canada because I think it's definitely an exciting time. And I do believe that there's going to be some real changes happening.
The US with their tariffs is affecting us in huge ways.
Right.
Um, and that's why this election that's coming up on April 28th is so, so important because we need somebody in power that's going to be able to
Handle him?
deal with
Yeah,
him in a diplomatic way. There's more than just two
that's
parties
right.
in
That's
in
right.
Canada, but we have the two top ones, which are the Liberals and the Conservatives.
Yep.
The
Specifically, Mark
Liberal,
Carney, who's the leader of the Liberal
yep,
Party, and Pierre Poilievre, who is the leader of the Conservative Party. And then you're right, there's the other two parties, the NDP and the Bloc Québécois, and the Green Party
yeah,
too. Forgot
and the
about that.
Green
There's a lot
Party.
of people.
Three,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, there's the fourth. What is that far right one?
Oh, PPC?
People's, yeah,
Yeah.
People's Party of Canada.
Yeah.
But
I
I mean,
forgot
it's
about
such a
them.
small drop of the proud
The
racist
blatant
people.
races. Yeah. Very proud of it. Well, I will say though that with Trudeau stepping down, he stepped down as the prime minister and leader of the Liberal Party,
Mhm.
and with Mark Carney being
Voted
voted
into
in by his,
by the
I
Liberal
was one of the
Party.
people that did it as well. I
Oh, did
joined.
you vote?
Yeah, I voted.
Yeah.
And watching him in action has been really impressive Because one thing that I really have noticed is Donald Trump's tone has changed. Remember before I used to call him Governor Carney? Well,
Right.
after the recent meeting with him, he tweeted Prime Minister Carney, and he no
Yes.
longer refers to us as the 51st state.
Although
What do you do
although
now?
with that, I am suspicious with that
Oh, of
because that
course.
all happened after Danielle Smith, the premier of Alberta, went
Yeah,
down to Mar-a-Lago to have a one-on-one talk with Trump because she is friends with him and that alt-right wing
crowd.
of the United States. And she told him, and she said this on a podcast that she went down there and she said, I spoke with him and told him he needed to change his rhetoric because it's hurting Polyev. And if we want Polyev to get in, he needs to be a little bit more kind to Mark Carney and make it look like you're supporting him. Which right after that, he said, I think that I would work very well with Mark Carney. I know that there's a lot of very gullible people in the US.
I
Canadians,
mean,
not so much.
well, we hope so up
We
here.
hope so.
Yeah.
Because it is a very close race.
I mean, right now the polls are suggesting that the Liberals are running away with the election. And as exciting as that sounds, I don't quite
Yes.
believe it because I think the only way that this is going to be an actual majority or even a minority win for the Liberals is if you vote. And you and I are
Yes.
huge, huge advocates for people to vote. And you mentioned the date again.
Yeah.
I'll just start with that and say April 28th is the date. Please mark it in your calendars and vote.
Yeah.
But there's been quite a lot of interesting developments happening with this race between Pierre and Mark. And it is pretty much between the two of them, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, we could deduce that it's going to be mostly
Yeah.
between the two of them.
It
But
always is, right?
yeah, absolutely. And it's been interesting just watching Mark Carney in particular because I don't believe he's someone that should be underestimated in terms of he is a world presence.
Yeah.
He's very different from. I know that the crowd on the right like to paint him as Trudeau Part Two, and he is
No.
absolutely not, which I think frightens them.
Right.
I really
Well,
do.
even if you look at
Oh,
his resume alone. So if I'm applying for a job, I make a resume and I hand it into the company that I'm applying to, and they will look at my resume against all the other resumes that come
right,
in. And
right.
if you put Mark Carney's resume against Polyev's resume,
Oh,
it's like night and day. Like you look at Polyev's and go, okay, well, sure, you've been in government your entire life. That's the only job you've ever had, but that's
compare this
it.
to
And compare it to the laundry list of things that Mark Carney's been able to accomplish. It's crazy.
you can't even compare.
No.
And what's even more interesting is the former leader of the CPC, Stephen Harper, has praised Mark Carney to the skies. But suddenly, it's amazing how quickly the narrative can be changed within the CPC party and its supporters. You do realize there are video and newspaper articles and all sorts of things that support this idea or this
Yeah.
actual reality that Stephen Harper did and does support Mark Carney and his
Yeah.
incredible abilities.
Well,
But
Harper has to because he's the one that's propped up Polyev for so long, right?
yeah, yeah.
He's been his little molding masterpiece, I guess.
I have been on social media just to check and see what's been playing out because social media is its own silo. Oh, actually, I do follow Pierre Polyev because you should. You should follow
Yeah.
and see what they're saying.
Yeah.
And his campaign is tweeting out um, some pretty serious allegations about Mark Carney. The latest was he had a list: plagiarism, tax evasion, creative accounting, abusing tenants, union busting, moving his headquarters out of Canada to the US, denying insurance claims to coal miners dying of black lung, taking massive loans from Chinese state owned banks, and advisor to Justin Trudeau on the economy. It's a laundry list of garbage. And
Yeah. It's
what,
as if he went, can I become a Russian propagandist?
right? But
Right.
it's
And
getting,
spout some lies.
it's insidious,
Yeah.
this misinformation. And what's scary is people believe it.
Of course they
That's what
do.
scares me more than anything else.
Yeah.
you
Yeah, of
know?
course I do. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how
Right.
you're looking at it,
Yeah.
Pierre Poilievre's campaign is imploding. First it was axe attacks, and he has these lovely slogans that he
Slogans.
he goes on. But because of him imploding, just because of Mark Carney giving him a little bit of resistance now and it not being an easy sailing thing, it's being said that he's screaming at interns
Yeah.
and there's infighting
Yeah.
and not wanting to listen to anyone, and it's a terrible mess.
Yeah.
If he can't deal with Mark Carney and the little thing called an election, which yeah, sure, it's pressure and it's stressful. Absolutely. However, we have Trump
Yeah.
and tariffs and the world. How is he going to behave if he can't handle an election that he's not going to sail through?
I agree.
That's my biggest question. And I mean, if you are supporting him right now, and that's fine, you can support whoever you want to support, but that should be a concern of yours because you need to have somebody who is calm and collective at the helm. I like our boring Canadian government because it just gets things done as
But I
opposed
do
to
think go ahead.
the dramatics of American politics.
Right.
We don't need that here.
Well, apparently, for some folk, apparently we do, because
Yeah.
those simplistic slogans speak to a portion of the population that seem to relish hearing that stuff instead of reality. And that detachment, I find, is, again, part of the whole scary misinformation uh, situation that we're in right now, because people are swallowing that stuff up. They're not interested in hearing intelligent conversations. They're not interested in hearing, policies that will directly affect you. And if they are hearing a policy, it's something that they may not like that's been directed by the CPC party to tell them, don't like this. Well, then, then they
Yeah.
spout off on, and what I find really disturbing is what they latch onto when it comes to policies. They go on about the WEF and they don't
I
have
was just thinking that.
right. And I'm like, do you have any idea what that organization does other than what they have told you it is?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them I find, and I'm going to put them in a little bit of a group, always go off about, well, my research. Well, maybe you're not doing the right research, or maybe you're
Mm.
specifically ignoring certain
Yeah.
things that are telling you that that is not
Skimming.
exactly. And so, therefore, these simplistic slogans work really well, and you can't shake that. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think Mark Carney has a big job ahead of him in order to try to
Yeah.
persuade at least some of them. Maybe I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, because there's already the F Carney
Really?
flags going up. Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah. No, these people are really horny and they want to fuck everything. I guess
I-
the people on the left are just sexier.
yeah, I
They
guess we
want to
are.
screw them all the time.
I'll take it.
But but you know what?
I
Whenever I hear somebody say something about the WEF, it makes my hackles rise because it is rooted in anti-Semitism.
absolutely,
And I know that a lot of people are like, "No, it's not. How do you have proof of that?" It is absolutely, rooted
completely.
in anti-Semitism. You may not. I'm not saying that you are an anti-Semite because you've said it, but do know where that whole thing started. Do find out.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like sometimes it's screaming in the wind
Yeah.
because it's so deeply planted. And when something is rooted, it's hard to pull it out. You can try, and hopefully you'll have some success depending on the person if they're willing to be moved. But I find that a lot of fervent right wing supporters are not interested in hearing your opinion. They're
No.
interested in telling you what they think. And they may try to use the word engagement, but that's not what they're doing. This is just I'm speaking and you're going to listen and I'm right. And no
Yeah.
matter what you say, it's wrong. Oh, really? Well, what about this policy here? And what about this? What about what Mark Carney is outlining in this particular area of housing? What about over here when he's talking about how to deal with trade with the United States and tariffs? Well, I'm not listening to that. It's like, well, then what do we do here? Like, how do you bridge that gap?
throughout the entire 8 years, Pierre Poilievre has spent that entire time
Yeah.
dividing Canada,
Yeah.
saying that we're broken, and supporting people that were anti-left, anti-woke, anti-Trudeau,
Mhm.
anti all this stuff, which makes me crazy. So now that Trump is wanting to take us over and make us
51st
state
state.
number 51 or
Yeah.
51st state, now we're he wants to be the voice to bring us together. I'm sorry, you can't suck and blow at the same time,
Tell that
right?
to our media. Tell that
Exactly.
to our media, because I think that's also an area of extreme concern,
Yeah,
that we have allowed foreign ownership of our media. And make no mistake, especially Post Media, which owns a number of newspapers across this country, as well as some
yeah,
media giants,
yeah.
for
It's
TV.
they're American owned.
Yeah. So they're not, again, not interested in highlighting or talking about, for example, Pierre Poilievre's security clearance. It is still an issue. He does not have it. And
Yeah.
don't come at me, right wingers, with he doesn't need it. No, he needs it in
Well,
order to
they're
receive
saying that he
intelligence.
doesn't need it because if he has it, he will be shackled because he's not allowed to talk about certain things then. And this way he can talk about certain things. Well, guess what?
Or he
He's
can
not
lie,
finding out about those certain things because he doesn't have security clearance. So
right?
either way, you're not learning about them.
And I also wonder if they would be quite as forgiving if it was, well,
Oh my
Trudeau that
God.
didn't have it.
Absolutely.
They
If
would be,
if Carney was sitting there going, "No, I'm not gonna get my security clearance," they're already complaining because they want to know where
his money is.
his money is. They
Yeah.
wanna know all of his financial stuff. Have you
And,
asked about Pierre's financial stuff?
right?
Because a lot of his stuff, his wife owns a ton of rental properties,
Mhm.
and what isn't he fixing? Oh, he's not fixing rent or he's not fixing housing.
No,
What he is doing, everyone will say, well, he's removing tax on housing. No, he's removing tax on new builds. So it's a tax that's going to save
right,
the developers money. If we
right.
save the developers money, they're going to pass that savings on to you. How well has trickle down economics happened?
Oh,
We saved $1 billion company money. Is that going to come to us? Absolutely not. No point is that ever going to happen. They're just going to make more profit.
right. And again, it's this complete cognitive dissonance that's happening when you try to tell people who support that theory of trickle down economics. It just, and it's people that are actually directly affected the most with that policy that get hurt,
Yeah.
but they're not interested in understanding. And I, I am baffled sometimes as to why you don't want to know. Um, but I guess it's also, as long as it's hurting other people, maybe
Right.
then I don't want to, then I won't ask questions, right?
Yeah.
And
But the
even,
thing is, a lot of the people who vote conservative
yeah,
are who are going to be hurt by the things he is doing as he's been in parliament, his only job, which he has a platinum um, pension from
yeah,
already. So he can't talk about Jagmeet Singh getting his platinum pension because he has a platinum pension and he's done nothing. But he has voted down affordable housing legislation 7 times.
yeah,
So it is something that he has voted with housing stuff. It's just not in favor of, and he's blocked all efforts made by the Liberals and NDP
yeah.
for affordable housing.
Any policy that's been created, particularly during the Trudeau era, I can guarantee that it will be gone, or it will be changed, or it will be cut in some
Yes.
respects in half,
Yeah.
including the dental program that was recently put through, and it's very popular.
Well,
But
if you go to their
website,
policy declarations, they're planning on doing Doge like
yeah,
cuts. That
ugh,
is one of the big plans. It's extraordinarily vague of what they're going to be cutting, but it's whatever they determine to be wasteful.
Do you believe that it's vague? I don't. I think they know exactly what they're going to go after, but they're
Oh,
just
I
not
know,
telling
I
us.
know. I think it's
Yeah.
vague for us who are
4. That's
reading
right.
through it and trying to figure out what it is. They also are going to allow members to bring forward legislation to compromise reproductive health care, LGBTQ rights,
Hmm.
um, and the right to bodily autonomy. Nice.
Basically, push us back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And so, as much as people go, well, they're not going to get rid of abortion rights because abortion is healthcare. No, they won't get rid of it because they can't legislatively. However, what they will do is they will get rid of the places that are doing abortions.
yeah.
They will say stupid little rules like, in order for this hospital to perform abortions, the ceiling height has to be X number of feet high. Like, why? But
Ugh,
those are little details. Our ceiling isn't that high, so I guess we're not able to perform an abortion.
right.
So you're chipping away at things that limit access to abortion. And abortion care is not just, oh no, I found myself pregnant and what am I going to do?
Right.
It's everything from something is extremely wrong with this pregnancy
Yeah.
and is putting my life and the baby's life in danger. So we need to terminate it. That's an abortion. Oh, I've had a miscarriage, but it's only been a partial miscarriage. Ridding yourself of the excess of what's in there is an abortion. Both those things can kill the mother. It has nothing to do with being pro life, it's pro birth.
Yeah. But you're spouting
I know. I'm saying
intelligent
it to you. I'm.
and it I mean, and most people on our side would
Yeah.
agree with everything that you're saying.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Connie. Um, I was thinking about this when I was prepping for this episode. I was starting to write down what Mark Carney's doing, what Pierre Poilievre is doing, and trying to balance it out
I
because
know. I do
and then I
the
thought,
same.
I'm not doing that because they don't. The right doesn't do anything remotely related to
Yeah.
balance. So why in hell are we trying to do that as well? It's clearly not getting anywhere by trying to make them understand when they're absolutely not interested in hearing what the left has to say.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I know it's about trying to make sure that we don't devolve
It's
ourselves into
balanced and
civil war,
fair.
right?
Yeah.
But we are now past that point where the lines are so entrenched that talking, it's becoming scary a little bit, I think. Um,
Yeah.
Trying to have some sort of cordial relationship with people who don't agree with our opinions and vice versa. Because the opinions, I think, have changed so much now. And I think the background behind people's mentality, especially on the right, is rooted in things that fundamentally, for me, I will speak for me, and this is what I think, I absolutely disagree with. Racism, sexism,
Yeah.
homophobia, all that stuff seems to be rooted in there, and they can deny it, but it's there.
It
It
is.
absolutely
Yeah.
is. And you need no look no further than what's going on down south in the States.
No. Well,
Look
he
at
was
what they're
asked.
doing.
All you have to do is see who he's done interviews with. Pierre.
Yeah.
Pierre's done
Jordan
interviews
Peterson,
with Jordan Peterson. What is that other guy from the
Ben
States
Shapiro,
that well, Ben Shapiro was also with Danielle
Danielle's.
Smith,
Yep.
right? She's a piece of work, I swear. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say one thing about Mr. Carney. I don't think he's someone you want to mess with.
Right.
When dealing with the premiers, I have noticed that there is a subtle difference with the way things are being done. We need look no further than right here in Ontario with Ford. He's been very quiet lately. I don't know if you've noticed, but he has been, and in particular after meetings with Carney. Before he was all bluster and Captain Canada, but I
Yeah.
don't know. He's been very quiet, and I wonder now if Danielle is given just a little bit of a rope before he pulls her like back in some way. And I do
Yeah.
think he has the strength to do it. I do believe she is an outstandingly unintelligent woman. Unintelligent?
Yes.
Yes.
Other words, stupid.
Stupid. And she's just, yeah, I do think, keep going, lady, because he
Yeah. Well,
will
one
find a way.
thing that Carney did say that he will be doing is getting a stronger hold on our healthcare system.
Good.
So our healthcare system is directed by
Yes,
our provincial ministers. However, they are given money
that's right.
from the federal government to put into our healthcare system, and
Right.
they've never had to explain where this money has gone.
Because
The
they scream and yell when they do. They don't like
right,
it.
right.
Right.
But now they're going to have to be responsible for where that money is going.
Yes. I think if Mr. Carney is able to pull that one off, I will be, and as somebody who uses and utilizes our healthcare system,
Yeah.
I can see what's going on. And I know a lot of people who are screaming and yelling, "Oh, the federal government has no right to stick their nose in our business," blah blah blah, or don't have an understanding that it's the provincial government that is setting the tone for the way things are in our healthcare system. Our system used to be world class. It really
Yeah.
was a system that was the envy of
And it
the free
still should
world.
be
And it
if
still should be,
our
but
provincial leaders were not screwing with
right.
the system and trying to make it go into a two-tier system. Two-tier system does not work, as proved by Australia, who went
Mm,
from single payer to two-tier. It hasn't made, not that it doesn't work, it works. It doesn't make things quicker.
no,
It
it
doesn't
doesn't.
make it doesn't give you all of a sudden more doctors.
What's interesting is a lot of the people that have benefited the most from our healthcare system back in the day are the same people now that are pulling the ladder up behind them. Oh, I don't want
Yeah.
to pay for that anymore, which is insanely selfish. But
Mhm.
that's the attitude that we're dealing with now. We've got a group of people now that are determined to pull that ladder away, taxes going down. Well, taxes pay for things. I don't know how many times this needs to be said. We
Yeah.
pay taxes to fix our roads, to get health care, to pay for our education, to take care of the things that you take for granted, like our water system, firemen, emergency systems, things that matter. Do you not understand that? Lowering your
Yeah.
taxes make our system worse. Look at our roads. They are disastrous.
Yeah.
But again, we're
So,
screaming
but
into the
that's
void, aren't we?
eh, yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah,
are. We are. Um the nice thing with Carney is that he does have this experience with not just, I mean, he's an economic genius,
yes.
literal genius.
Yeah,
Um, and he also has relationships with people around the world, with governments
yeah,
around the world, with those in
yeah,
power around the world. So those two things combined is like a superpower,
absolutely.
you know?
I mean, look at what he's done so far in terms of dealing with the tariff situation. He has, wow, EU, trade partners with the EU, Mexico. He's moving us and interprovincial trade as well, knocking down those barriers.
Exactly, exactly.
Huge.
He's making us less reliant on the US, which is exactly what we need to
We
be,
need it.
because obviously they're not our friend,
No,
government-wise.
right.
They're not our friend. Their government is not our
Yeah,
government's friend.
yeah,
And I do have to emphasize that because I don't want it to sound like we are anti-American people.
no,
People are people
yeah.
everywhere, even if they voted this person in. I think some of them that
I
did
love your
vote
little
in
caveat
and
that
were,
you slipped in there.
yes, I had to because I was just like,
I know.
that's,
I know.
you know,
Uh, I
but
know.
um, yeah, but he in this short period of time has made EI. He's taken that 1 week period for claims for your employment insurance and
Yeah,
waived that 1 week period because um, that's our money. Actually, it's
yeah,
not welfare.
yeah.
Employment insurance is something that you pay
That's right.
into.
That's right.
Um, and the companies that are affected by tariffs, he's removing and deferring corporate income tax payments and
Uh,
GST remittances to provide local businesses with up to $40 billion in liquidity.
yeah. But
Yeah.
he has, like, right out the gate, has been busy. Like
Yeah.
he has really fostered new relationships, which has been important to Canada. We need them.
Yep.
But I do find that again, as we are dealing with the media that absolutely is not interested in highlighting these excellent things that we need in this country. They are parroting all the shit from the conservatives,
Yeah,
and because their best interest lies with conservatives. We know this. That's very, very clear.
right.
But the scary part is now is that there are people that
And the
aren't
conservatives
informed,
give them nice slogans.
and they scream the loudest. They are the biggest bunch of babies and whiners, and they are so loud.
So true.
And that's why they get the word out. They're very good at it. This type of thing where they're so incredibly annoyingly loud um, hasn't worked in the left's favor. I find that the left tends to be a little less vocal, a lot more quiet, proud of our accomplishments, but not willing to push the accomplishments out there
Yeah.
for people to get.
But one thing that he's done also is about Jasper. It's $187 million that is going to
Okay.
Jasper
Okay.
for road and infrastructure. He's also, thanks to the US, making a $6 billion defense with Australia.
Yes.
The contract was supposed to go to the
Go to the
US,
States. That's right.
but it's not anymore.
Hmm.
And that means more jobs for Canadians because we're doing it
That's right.
with the Australians. So, but we're doing it here. So, maybe we should thank Trump because we are diversifying and coming together as a country. I mean, he's also breaking down the borders between the provinces for
Yep.
trade.
Interprovincial
So,
trade.
I
Yeah.
mean, that
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There is one area though that I would like a little bit more information about, and I'm becoming a disability advocate. I really would like to know what the plans are for that area because that's one I know it's kind of under the radar, but I also
right.
know that people have very strong opinions about disability. And I think sometimes I believe North America we're sometimes so far behind in how we treat
Mhm.
our citizens here. And when you compare it to European countries with how they treat their citizens, we are
Right.
so, so sad. And the fact of the matter is that, and I am going to advocate for this, that a lot of people who are on disability are living under the poverty line. And it's horrific. It's really shouldn't be happening in such a rich, diverse country that we have. So I'm just very curious to see exactly um, if there's going to be something in place or planned that's going to increase the amounts of money for people that
Right.
have it. I
Well,
think I
I
think that's
know
needed.
in his policies, there is stuff for seniors being able to stay in their home,
Okay.
and also not, again, be living within the poverty line. They've worked their entire lives and now all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and to make sure that they have adequate home care funding, and shift provincial focus from institutional care to home care. So I'm wondering if within that help for seniors, if there will be
No.
the same
Nothing
focus
so
for
far. I looked
no.
as well. I haven't
Oh,
seen
did you?
anything. And in fact, I think for this latest round of ministers, since he took over from Trudeau, he had cut the minister that was responsible for disability.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah.
That's
So
fortunate.
let's see what happens if he does manage to eke out a victory in this next election. Connie, what I really want to ask you, talk to you about is, or maybe this might be under a different conversation, but it's part of this election, and it's our kids, it's the youth, and people that are voting age, and what
Evelyn is a
information,
voting age now. She can
right?
vote. She's all
So here's
excited
the
about
thing:
that.
what I'm hearing is that right wing views are starting to increase with
Yeah.
the younger generation.
Social
Um,
media.
Social media is playing a huge role in shaping the minds of our kids.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the left is not doing a good job to counter the insane amount of misinformation that is being put on our social media in regards to our policies, our laws, just in general about our society. And it's concerning. Now, of course, I think we might have another conversation in general just about social media, and that's
Yeah.
a fair conversation to talk about. But since this is
Yeah,
the
that is a
election,
whole
right?
a whole
But since this
podcast for
is our
that.
election, the echo chambers within our social media are definitely affecting and shaping the minds of our kids.
The social media and the young kids believing what's on there. The problem is, and when we say Russia propaganda,
Yeah.
it's a serious thing. So right now they have something. It's a new. Well, it's not new actually, but they're really ramping it up now. It's called Pravda, and they're flooding the internet
Yeah.
right now with misinformation, not to make the people confused about the truth, but to confuse AI,
Oh,
because AI pulls from the internet. That's
right.
how it works,
Right.
right? It gives you information, pulling it from the internet way faster than what you could ever do, and then consolidating it and spitting it out as information,
Right.
right?
Right.
But Pravda right now is flooding the internet with misinformation and propaganda in
It's
order
interesting.
to confuse the AI system. So now I don't know if this is a new thing, but when you go on AI, at the bottom of it, there's a little disclaimer that says that the information that it could be giving you could be wrong,
Oh,
and for you to double check it.
ha.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
That is
I've used
interesting.
chat. Yeah, I've used chat
GPT.
GPT a few times,
Yeah.
and never noticed that before until
Huh.
just recently. So it
Well,
made me,
I actually thought they were flooding it
yeah.
because of the fact that Carney was doing so well. So the response was to increase the
Oh, I
number.
think it's everything.
Wow.
It
Okay.
is the world. It has nothing to do with just our country. It has to do with everyone.
I
Russia
will say I
is
am
on a
oh yeah. I am looking forward to us talking about social media in general because I
mhm.
mean, our elections are there's never been a time in our history as Gen Xers where we've seen this level of, I'm going to use the word corruption in regards to our electoral process and watching it play out.
Yeah.
Not maybe not so much in Canada. We've been very good up here. Thank God because we still use paper
So
ballots.
far, knock on wood.
Well, as long as we still use paper ballots, right?
Yeah.
And although in Ontario, I think we do use paper ballots, but they still use an electronic system, which I'm not
Yeah.
quite loving, to be perfectly honest,
No.
because of manipulation potential.
Well, I mean, everybody heard the line from Trump where he said, that guy knows those computer things and knows how to work them, and
Yeah,
that's why we won. Literally spat that out.
and no,
That's not verbatim, but
yeah,
pretty much verbatim
yeah.
of what he said. And that was my fear with Elon Musk backing Pierre Polyev is and wanting to have his Starlink here, that he would manipulate it.
I still, as a sidebar, in regards to Starlink and our own province, although the claim was by our premier that we're ripping it up, I still don't believe him. I don't yet.
Well, Quebec took it, right? And they said that they had no choice but to go with Starlink.
Really?
Yeah.
They had no choice.
I think they have a choice. They said that there was no other company out there that would do the satellite system like Elon. Um,
Huh.
we somebody really needs to come up with something
Yeah,
fast before that one person has everything. Although I
exactly.
am hoping that that one person ends up,
What? What?
I don't know, in jail, something. The amount of corruption that he's dealing with right now, the amount of voting manipulation that he's dealing with. My fear is what he's going to try to do here in Canada, much like what he did in the States.
If we don't vote for people who are really out there to protect us, then we will.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times this needs to be said to our whoever it is on the right that this is for the greater good. And I'm sorry you're angry about, I don't know what Trudeau did with his hair or his socks or whatever it is that's bothering you there. He's
I
gone
know.
now. So now use your head, put on your big boy pants, and start thinking a little bit more about society and what we want. Of course, again, I've been repeating this over and over that we are talking to a echo chamber. It's just you and me and our followers, whoever it is that's listening to us. We know that you're generally in agreement with what we're saying, but it's the other side where I think we do give a shit about them, whereas I don't think they give a shit about us.
Yeah,
And I think that's the
that's the
problem.
difference. Yeah,
And
it is a
we
huge
want to
problem.
bring them in so that they're part of something, and they're not interested in being a part of it. They'd rather be on the outside screaming. And
Mhm.
I think,
And listening to disinformation.
right,
I mean, right now
to
you
back up
hear
their
them saying
views.
that Mark Carney killed the UK economy. No, he didn't.
What? Who said that? What? I didn't
Oh,
hear
that's
that.
what yeah, the conservative, woman that is from the UK said it was because of Mark Carney that, things here no.
Would that be the
No, he
sixth?
actually fixed
Would that be the
things.
6th month premier or prime minister that they had, Liz Truss, that said that? Oh,
Yes.
she's an
Yes.
idiot.
Exactly,
Oh
but people
God,
believe her, right? They're thinking, "Oh, yep, that's what he did." He advised them
against
against
it.
Brexit, okay?
Yep.
Then when they did it anyway, he helped them not
Manage.
completely
Yeah.
collapse, and then he also had COVID overlapping that, so he was helping them deal with those 2 things. He had quantitative easing is what they called it, which is not printing money like what Liz Truss said. He did
That's their
not print
solution to
money.
everything.
Yeah,
Print more money.
yeah.
Trump says the
It's
same thing.
monetary expansion. It's a completely different thing. It's where you're buying bonds from the country that so it's like financial CPR
Yeah.
to make sure that things do not go completely haywire.
Um, the work that needs to be done is so much bigger than just electing Mark Carney. He has work to do in regards to somehow righting this ship of disinformation that is completely running rampant. This election right now, with what Pierre Poilievre is tweeting, now I'm not on Facebook, you are. And I've been
Yes.
reading or hearing on social media that Facebook is becoming this insane world of right wing crazy that's not being
Yeah.
regulated. And it's all the rumors, and it's
Yeah,
gossip
there's a
and
lot
rumors
of
and
rumors and a
innuendo.
lot of false
Absolutely.
stuff going on out there, and it's
Now
just
we
like you
say
kind of
that.
look at it and sometimes I get engaged and sometimes I don't.
I know.
It's hard sometimes
Yeah.
to not, especially when people are spouting NAFTA. I'm sorry we don't have NAFTA anymore. It was gone. It's gone.
Th-
Trump, the person that was when he was in his first term, got rid of it
yeah.
and went with
MCA.
USMCA.
That's right. Yeah. And he's completely
Hasn't been
reneging on
NAFTA
that.
for a long time.
That's right.
So don't blame things on NAFTA.
The tariffs are Trump completely.
Trudeau didn't put the tariffs on Trump
Yeah,
first.
but he's also going against his own deal that he put together. It
Yes.
Trump put together. Trump is going
Yes.
against this deal. It's Trump. It is not Trudeau.
Yeah.
But
And
but
we don't have tariffs on their milk.
oh,
We have protectionism for our milk so that our system doesn't get flooded with their dairy.
so
That's what it is.
it's all surface then, eh, Connie? I guess that's
It
what it
is.
is. It's surface. They're
It
not.
is. You know what it is like? Okay. And this is so for, and I heard somebody say the blaming of Carney for what happened in the UK
Yeah,
or the blaming of Trudeau is like blaming the fire department for water damage. And I was like, oh my God, that's
that's really good.
probably the best line I've ever heard.
And you can't. Now I know you've told me um, that you've had discussions with people online about
Yeah.
policy and just to clarify any sort of misinformation. And do you find that there's a lot of pivoting when you do counter it with truth and backing it up? Is there a pivot? Do you find that that when you
That I can sway
know
people.
that they are pivoting? So when you say that's wrong, blah 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 blah. Well, what about this? Do you find that that happens a
Oh,
lot?
you either get that or you get their heels are dug in. And at one point I stopped talking because I
Can't.
don't
It's too
have that
tiring.
bandwidth.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, there's a certain point and I do I really do believe in one being as respectful and as open as possible in the discourse, because I do believe that there's validity to both sides, and
Right.
but the problem is, much like they love to say this line to us, feelings are not facts.
They say that.
Because they say it to liberals all the time because they call us snowflakes and,
And meanwhile, look at
snowflake
them,
tears and this and that. I
biggest
have never seen a
crybabies.
group cry
Ugh,
more than a conservative
I know.
in my
I know.
entire life about anything,
Ugh.
about trans rights, about,
Oh, they're insane
whatever.
about that.
I
Their
know.
list of
Well, they
grievances.
had to create a boogeyman.
Right.
So they picked on transgender people. And I'm sorry, but they're less than 1% of the
Right.
population here.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what you're getting all up in arms about.
Again, this will be a conversation for social media, and I have my very strong opinions about it. But in
Yeah.
terms of what this is doing to us from an electoral perspective is beyond. Oh, here's another thing I will say about this future now that we're in, this present and potential future when it comes to politics and when it comes to our electoral process and everything involved with it. Our politicians now are becoming afraid because of what's being said out there, and there's no way to battle it because you're chasing after a storm. It's hard to control lies and manipulation. You put it on social media, it's out there. Then
Yeah.
you're the one now that has to go and stop it from proliferating around
Well,
the world. And
and because it makes it look so real. Sometimes they'll have video, they'll have pictures, oh, look
oh,
at this.
and AI is not making it easier. Oh my God, we're going into social
No.
media, but it is
Yeah,
related to politics, and that's
it is.
um, uh, why I think the liberals in general need to up their game, and I do believe that that is what Mark Carney is doing. I have never seen so
Yeah.
many postings and fact checking, and it's been really good. I do believe Trudeau's government didn't do a good job in battling that. I really believe that.
Mhm.
Now, that's one of the faults that I find with his
I
government is
think
that
it's going to
it,
get I think it's going to get more and more difficult regardless
yeah,
of
oh,
what
for
side you're
sure.
on to battle
Like
it.
Polyev is completely out of control on Twitter, and there's no way to stop it.
I know. To me, that would be a huge red
Oh,
flag. Actually, combating the disinformation is part of Mark Carney's platform,
you looked
his
it up.
policies. Yeah. So that is a huge, huge thing. Especially like I said, with things like Pravda that are out there purposefully
Yeah.
trying to spread disinformation and destabilize our way of living.
Mhm.
And I don't understand for what purpose.
They want what we
Like, what
have.
is the end game? What is it that what is it that North America has that Russia wants? Other than I understand Russia and the US. I understand that because they're even though the Cold War ended,
They
Putin
want,
is old guard,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
USSR.
I think they want access to our north, the North
Oh
Passage.
yeah,
They
yeah,
want
yeah,
access to our minerals, our oil. We have so much wealth here that they want, especially the states.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we are,
Oh, I understand with the
oh yeah,
states.
but the
I
Soviets
know exactly
want
what
that
it is that they
passage,
want.
right?
Yeah.
So it's I can't believe we're here. This is why this election is consequential. We are either
Yes.
going to have a country that is determined to be independent and will find its own way in this crazy, crazy world, or we're going to vote for somebody who is absolutely not going to do shit to stop it. His
No.
boss is part of the IDU, which people look that up,
Mhm.
and from there
Yeah.
you can determine where direction our country will head if Pierre
But they're not
Polyev.
going to look it up. That's
I know,
that's the thing.
I know,
They're not going to look it up.
I know.
And if they think they're going to be wealthier under Pierre Polyev, he's He wants to prop up trickle down economics. We've been watching what happens with trickle down economics. That's why we have the huge disparity between the ultra wealthy and and the erosion of middle class.
Do you think that people think they're going to become wealthier under Poilievre?
Oh yeah. So if your company has not increased your pay,
That's yeah,
is that the government or is that the company that you're working for? Because I can tell you companies have been making more and more money. I know at least in the produce sector and the grocery store sector, I can say those companies have been making money hand over fist. So I'm not sure exactly how you think that would be government problem. And if you want the government to fix that, but want a conservative government, you're going in the wrong direction. You actually should be looking at NDP if you want government
right.
to fix what corporations are doing,
Well, as much
right?
as they can. I mean, ultimately,
As much as they
right?
can within the confines of
Yes,
our capitalist
right.
society. But I mean, you wouldn't be looking anywhere near the direction of the conservatives if you want companies to pay you more.
There's this image that I have in my head of what's happened to us as a capitalist society. And I just picture all these billionaires gleefully rubbing their hands together, laughing as they, eat their caviar and drink their champagne while they're looking down at all the people infighting and fighting amongst themselves over the little pennies that are being showered over them, and gleefully laughing at the fact that they're angry at everybody but who they should be mad at. And
Right.
government is just one very small component that is controlling our lives. But for some strange reason, there really is a complete removal from people's brains. Corporations are really a huge reason as to why we are in our position right now. And they control
Yeah.
way more than you think. We know
Yeah.
this.
And and because Mark Carney is a wealthy
Yeah,
economist, they are saying that that is why he will be more for for companies than Pierre Poilievre because he knows the companies. He's
right,
part of the WEF. He's part of this, you know, wealthy
right.
elite,
Yeah,
However, that's not who Carney is at
at
all.
all.
If you look at how he was raised, if you look at one of the first few things that he did was go see the indigenous people up
Yeah,
north.
yeah,
That was the third people he saw when he first got into government. He went to England, he went to France, and he went
up
to
north.
our
That's
northern
right.
territories.
And did something that Pierre Poilievre didn't do, which was to meet the people up there. Don't you
Yeah,
dare come at us by saying Pierre was up there. Yes, he was. He went up there, made an announcement, and then got the hell out of it. He met no
yeah.
one up there. So this is not a case of, well, he
No, it
did
was
it
a
too.
photo op.
Stop comparing, because even when it comes to the money aspect of this, Pierre Poilievre has $25 million as a career politician. Why the
Yeah,
hell aren't you asking where this money came from? You're so busy looking at Mark Carney's money. How about you take a look at the guy that you like? But they don't want to. They really, really don't.
yeah,
Because then they're,
and right. And
yeah,
as an economist who worked for banks and in that system, I hope he's wealthy
right,
because then it means he's good at what he's doing.
right, exactly.
Where Pierre Polyev, I'm sorry, how did you become wealthy? That's being crooked at what you're doing.
And
Two different things.
exactly, exactly. And the thing is that they're also um, going after Mark Carney for his holdings in Brookfield. And it's been recently stated that Pierre Poilievre also has holdings in Brookfield. So again, it's just, well, what he can do, you can't do. I don't know.
Yeah,
You should always question everybody, and us as liberals, we also question Mark Carney. We have every right to. That's the
yeah,
point. But there's doesn't seem to be much questioning coming from the right because they're too busy focused on what's going on with the left. Their job is to argue with us, not to question their own people. It's a coalition
yeah.
versus a cult. That's the way I look at it. We are a coalition of people coming together trying to do the greater good. They are a cult of lemmings who sit together and figure it out, and they all stick together no matter how awful it might be. and never question it.
Yeah.
It's scary. It is. I'm sorry.
No.
That's
No.
the conservatives are screwed in certain respects. They took away carbon tax. They
Mhm.
can't call him carbon tax Carney anymore. They went after this Chang guy. They can't do that anymore because he stepped down. They talked about his holdings in Brookfield. Well, Pierre Poilievre has it too. They're constantly chipping away at the conservative narrative. I'm impressed. I am in absolute awe at how the liberal machine is doing it right. And that's partly too because Mr. Carney has experience on the world stage. And he's certainly not going to let our
Right.
media take over the narrative because he's been through it with the UK, and the UK media is an entirely different animal. Eh,
Yeah, if you
Oh,
if you can deal with the UK media, you can deal with
oh
any
yeah.
media.
And they are, and the thing is that that's why our Canadian media has been actually, I think they're doubling down a little bit more on the negative narrative because he's not dealing with their shit, and he's putting
Yeah,
them in their place rightfully because they need to be told. Trudeau didn't really have a chance in this case. Mark Carney is making
yeah.
it very clear. So we'll see. We'll see what
So
happens.
Pierre, he wants to get rid of the CBC, and everyone keeps saying, yes, we need to get rid of the CBC. They are calling it state media because it's Canadian owned. So you'd rather all of your media be owned by the US because that's currently what is happening right now. I'm sorry. I'd rather have my media owned by
Canadian.
Canada,
I
the
know.
country that I live in, than another country.
And our media is subsidized partly by government funds. It's the reason why we have foreign ownership is because of Stephen Harper. A great deal of the crap that we are dealing with is as a result of Stephen Harper. So don't come at us with
Oh
Stephen
yeah.
Harper was great because if you really do take a dive into his policies,
Yeah.
oh my lord,
Yeah.
help us.
Yeah. He gutted science. He screwed veterans. He torched environmental
Hmm.
protections. Our growth under him was
Hmm.
1.7%. Under Trudeau's 3%, and we
We
had a
didn't know
pandemic.
this.
And unemployment was 7% under Harper. It was 5% under Trudeau. And inflation was low because nothing was happening. There was no pandemic. There was no worldwide supply chain breakdown. And there was no war in Europe. There was nothing happening. You give anyone an easy sale, it's going to be sweet for them,
Absolutely. And not to
right?
mention, he took Paul Martin's surplus and turned it into a huge deficit. And
Yeah.
I don't know where this
And
narrative came up that,
sold stuff to China.
right? Oh, don't, oh, what he's locked us into.
So
You
all
know
of
what?
you
I can't.
saying that I know. All everybody saying that Trudeau sold stuff to China? No. That was Harper. Because that's how they balance the budget, right? Sell things. I mean, we've seen it even here in our own province. Sell the
Hmm.
407. You can balance the budget that way.
I,
Pierre's not going to be much different
well,
if he were in.
what I think is missing too, uh, from a lot of right wing thinkers is our place in the world and how Canada has been consistently ranked in the top 5 places of places to live, economic stability, all these great things that happened, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. How we managed, which is still being praised, how Canada managed itself during the COVID period
Yeah.
is consistently been seen as incredible. And we were
Yeah.
very lucky to have. Could you
Yeah.
imagine? Oh my lord, if we had had Pierre Poilievre or Stephen Harper in charge, we would be screwed. There would
Yeah.
be zero
It would
help.
not have been it would not have been what we saw
Yeah,
at all. And I mean, sailing through things, it was because of Mark Carney that we sailed through the 2008 economic crap show,
which was
right?
crap. It was horrific.
Yeah. We were unscathed
It's like,
thanks to his economic leadership.
see again now, as I step back, realizing that again, and this fills me with sadness that we are unable to get through to people who don't believe it or won't believe it.
You're always going to have the lost causes. This, for the convoy people who are now who were waving flags, Canadian flags, and are now the same people who are saying that they want to be the 51st state.
Oh, I know.
I'm sorry, what flag were you waving before saying that you were proud of? That's not pride of Canada. Pride of Canada means that you want to stay Canada and not become one of the what? Where are they? 34th on the list of places to live, countries to live.
Yeah, and now more than ever, watching our neighbors devolve. I saw something really fascinating. We can compare this to where we are and where what our future could be in comparison to what's happening to the states. And it was a really I wish I could quote it, but it's just this is just from my memory of what I read online. Trump represents American exceptionalism gone haywire. It is somebody who has accrued all the things that American dreams are about, but also the character of it. It's despicable. It's selfish. It is individualistic. It is all of those things at play on such a huge, huge level. And it'll be interesting to watch not only just how they deal with their lives, but what our prime minister in waiting is going to be doing. I mean, again, I'm impressed with what Mark Carney has already done to try and protect us from the craziness that is the states. I'm just hoping that people in this country will also really think about what they want for their kids, not just for ourselves, because there are people behind
Yeah.
us who are going to
You
look
have
at
to look
us and
10
think
years
they're
ahead
idiot.
ahead.
Exactly. Think of them. I know. I always laugh when you hear "think of the children" because it always reminds me of The Simpsons. But, but
Think of the
no, the
children.
children. But in this case,
Children.
but in this case, think of the goddamn kids. You're ruining their lives with your selfishness
Yeah.
here. Think. Do you want it better, or do you want that down in the states? Think. Anyway, that's what I think. That's yeah, that is exactly what I think.
Yeah.
Vote with your heart.
I have to agree. I have to agree. I've said it before and it's been said before by many people. We have to be a country that plants trees knowing that we will never sit in the shade of that tree.
Yeah,
That's what we have to do.
yeah,
We have to, build things to make a better future. It has nothing to do with today. It has everything to do with tomorrow. And I mean, if we're tearing apart things right now, that's not to make things better,
no. So get
you
out and
know.
vote, and
And
please
feelings aren't facts. Stop crying those conservative tears.
use your energy for something more constructive. Use your brains. Get a little bit more information instead of just copying cliched slogans.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, but they're going to kill the oil sector because Carney is anti-oil." Carney's not anti-oil. He's pro new energy. That doesn't mean you're anti-oil. It just means that you know that the world has to move away from fossil
Yeah,
fuels. Because could you imagine if we were still going, "Oh no, we can't. We have to keep on using that coal." Who says that? Yes, we need oil right now. And yes, oil is going to be important in our lives for the next long while.
hmm,
But we still have to move toward green
yeah,
energy, new energy.
yeah,
And guess what that does? That creates
right.
jobs. If you are in the oil sector, if that's your job, what I would suggest to do would be kind of maybe start getting yourself educated in green energy. The
Yeah,
writing's on the wall, or okay, you don't, but push your kids into getting it into the green energy
yeah,
field.
yeah.
If you're too old to learn something new, that's fine. It's like I said, it's still going to be around. The industry's not going anywhere. We still use oil for a whole lot of things,
Absolutely.
but we need to stop using as much and to stop being as reliant on that.
We need alternatives. I do think a great deal of
Yeah.
this is based on fear,
Well, it's change, right?
and they're afraid to change.
It's change.
Yeah,
You go into any coal mining town,
yeah,
old coal mining town, it was fear.
yeah,
They are still there because, you know, They do export coal to places like China and India. However, if you're not working in that industry, it's also not because the industry is stopped, it's because it's automated.
Mhm.
Automation
Right.
has taken your job
That's right.
because it's way easier to get a robot to do your job. So if you're going to be afraid of anything, maybe be afraid of the robots and AI that are coming.
Yeah. But
'Cause
that's not the point.
a
But
whole other
Trudeau,
story.
but Trudeau, like
Yeah.
you are making a very valid point about our future. And again, that's why it's important to think about your vote and how it affects you. Because you are voting for
Mhm.
corporations taking over if you do decide that the conservative values are yours. Okay, then accept them. Don't battle us. We're trying to tell you of what's coming your way.
And oil is not the future.
What's not. But
Oil is not the future. You have to, yes, it is current right now, and it is a huge part of our industry,
yeah,
but it is not the future of our industry. Think wider. Our industry could be green industry.
you
Green
lost them. You
energy
just
could
said it
be
right.
our,
You
yeah,
just lost them,
I know.
right? If it gets through to one
Yeah.
person, okay, fine. Then maybe there's a little bit of success there. However, again, as I've been repeating myself, we're talking into the wind. Just get out and vote and support your candidate of choice, but get out and vote. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. But that's what we think. And we all have our own thoughts on this, and that's great. Again,
This is
though.
our show, and this is what we think, damn it. So we rule. But yeah,
Exactly.
but we do definitely encourage everybody, including our right wing friends and family, whoever it is, to get out and vote. Just take advantage of our freedoms to vote. That's the one thing we have in this country, that we have the ability to be free with our choices. We can try to convince, but ultimately that is on you to make your decision. But utilize your decision. Don't miss out on voting. I think it's a fundamental part of our lives to vote, and too many people are not doing it. Vote,
Yeah.
for God's sake.
Yeah.
It's not just for your
It's
future.
April. You can't use the snow. Well, maybe you can.
Yeah, oh God, right?
That's an excuse. Who knows?
Right,
But
God.
who cares what is happening with the weather? Get out and vote.
That's right.
You know,
Yep.
most of the voting stations are right around your home.
Mhm.
That's the way it's done
Or
to make it as easy and convenient. Your job has to give you the time off
mhm,
to vote. It is their legal obligation to give you that time to
mhm,
vote and pay you,
mhm.
continue paying you
Yep.
while you're doing that.
Or if you
Um,
can't, if that's too much work, then vote early. Once Elections Canada releases its information, then there's so many options for you to take advantage of voting. And
yeah,
I'm going to say it again. Please vote. Use
yes.
your right to vote. Don't
Yeah.
waste it. It's depressing that people don't want to vote. Okay, no more preaching. Thank you very much for joining us today. We really did have a lot to say about this. But if you have something that you want to share with us, we'd love to hear it. Please, you can write in to us at the Connie and Steve at gmail.com or Miss Connie.
You can leave a comment at the bottom of this podcast, wherever it is that you're listening, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Apple Music, wherever it is that you're getting your podcast from. We'd love to hear from you. Hit that follow button. And also, if you could give us a rating, we'd love to have you rate our podcast. It doesn't have to be 5 stars, but 5 stars are really welcome.
Yeah.
Um,
We're not begging, we're just
uh,
suggesting.
Yes, a little bit
Yeah.
begging. No shame in that.
Right.
Anyways, have a great day, Steve.
You
Thank
too.
you for listening to me
And
yap
vice
on,
versa.
as
Me too.
always.
Thanks for listening to me rant
I
and ramble.
love
I love you
you.
too. See you later.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.